Hi guys, welcome to a very snowy Newcastle United training ground this morning. Hopefully you can hear me as a train goes by. I had a blizzard on the way here to the press conference this morning and arrived, I'm not joking, with about 1 minute to spare. Didn't think I was going to make it here. 4-lane ends was just absolutely jam-packed. It was like a car park and we're stuck in the hill for ages. But anyway, we don't want to hear about that. We're here at the training ground today. As you can see behind me, look at it. Absolute white out here at the training ground. So I believe the players are warming up inside and then they're getting one of the far away pitches ready to train on. But when I say train, we've just been chatting to Eddie Howe about the work, the load at the moment, the amount of games, the schedule, and he said, look, we're essentially not really training. We're, with the players we've got left, we're playing, we're recovering, we're playing, we're recovering. And he said, look, we're not in a position where we can put lots of training into them. So I think they'll probably do a little bit of shape this morning ahead of the Manchester United game, but I don't think they're training hard. I think they're getting their fitness from the games. Remember, the whole 11 that started, the entire 11 that started against PSG lasted the entire game, so the players' legs will be tired after that, and it's just a case of recovering them and getting them ready. I'm going to get onto VAR in a second because that was probably the main news line out of today's press conference, but firstly injuries, because we're talking about the load, and it sounds as though none of the injured players will be back for the weekend, so I think there was an outside hope that perhaps Harvey Barnes might have been a little bit closer, Sean Longstaff too, but from the way Eddie Howe was speaking this morning, none of these guys will be back, and it will be the same squad, the same 11, 12 players that will be involved against Manchester United tomorrow. So you would suggest it will most likely be the same starting 11 as PSG and Chelsea. I had a little feeling during the week against PSG that he may have rested either Almiron or Isak to have them on the bench as an option, but in the end he went with the same 11 and they managed to all play the 90 minutes, which I think was a huge relief to him. He says the biggest thing they're trying to do right now is just to make sure the players don't get mentally fatigued, and he said, and to ensure that we don't get any new injuries, because he says that will really hurt us if we get any more. But he's still happy with the starting 11 that he's got at the moment, and one or two subs. I think he feels that he's got enough strength to win matches against Chelsea, against PSG, potentially against Manchester United, and we're seeing that, aren't they? So none of those players back. It sounds as though they're hoping that Sven Botman won't need this operation, but they didn't really feel too much news in terms of what he was saying, because Botman has pretty much been the same situation for a while now. It feels as though they're going to give him a chance without getting the operation. So when we see him back, I'm not too sure, but he said he's training away from the group on his own at the moment. So it might be that we see him back in the next couple of weeks, but you know, I wouldn't hang your hat on that one. Still no definitive on Willock, and as I say, neither Longstaff or Barnes quite ready yet. So yeah, it's fallen at such a bad time with the schedule to have this amount of injuries. But should they get through the next month with these 11 players, I mean, what an achievement that would be, and winning games at the same time. I don't think you could better that, actually, given the schedule that's coming up and the injury ravaged squad that he's dealing with. So yeah, that's the bad news. Well, I wouldn't say this is the good news, but he did talk about the penalty the other night. You'll remember he was very, very calm, very measured after the match against PSG as ever. Didn't want to take himself anywhere too angry or negative. He did admit today that he does get angry. He said, but there was no point in me getting angry at the referee, because the referee didn't make the decision. He goes, it was VAR that made the decision, and he said that is my biggest issue with all of this, is that what is going through the referee's mind as he goes over to view the incident. He said my disappointment is what is going through the referee's mind. What is he thinking when he's going over to the monitor to review it? He said, I would love it if he went with his own opinion, but naturally it feels like it's VAR that decide, and it's very, very rare that they stick with their on-field decision. He said, I was looking at the referee, hoping and praying that he was going to stick with his decision, hoping and praying that he was strong enough to believe that his opinion was right, but it wasn't to be the case. And he said, you know, he wasn't surprised, and if there was one thing he could change about VAR, then that would be it, is that the referees were given more power in these moments, and he feels that the other night there, the referee, despite arguably being the best referee in the world, didn't have the power to make that decision and stick with his on-field decision at the time. Eddie Howe also spoke about the motivation from the last minute equaliser, the 98th minute equaliser by PSG. He's hoping that the players use that as motivation going into the game against Manchester United and the other games that are to come. He says that he's happy for the players to use that as motivation, and he thinks when Newcastle kind of look at it as it's Newcastle against everyone else, Newcastle against the world, it serves us well. So he's happy for the players to do that. He said he's always wanted that sense of it being Newcastle against everyone else out with Newcastle. What else has he asked? He's asked a bit about Louis Miley, who of course made his Champions League debut from the start against PSG the other night. He said, look, you would never know it. He's exactly the same when he came off that game to before he started, and he said he's got the mentality of a top level footballer. He got asked about why he didn't send him on loan, and he just said, look, I just didn't feel it was going to benefit him. You realise with some players that they're ready to go straight in, and he said he was way too close to playing here to be sent out on loan, and he's known that for some time. He's known that since the summer. And finally, he was asked how he celebrated his birthday the other day. He said, with a cup of tea, bit of cake and a couple of presents. Well, listen, he didn't get the present in Paris the other night, did he, with the award of that late penalty costing Newcastle hugely, but Eddie Howe's already moved on to this game against Manchester United tomorrow, and I think with the schedule they've got, they just have to park it and move on. He did say that they've written to, or they've contacted UEFA asking for clarity, but then followed that up by saying, look, we have done that, the club have done it, but I think the moment's gone and we need to move on to the next game. There's nothing we can do about it now. We need to use the frustration from the other night on the pitch against Manchester United tomorrow. And I think that is the sort of mentality and spirit that's got Eddie Howe to where he is. Although he admitted to getting angry at some things, he did admit to, when he was younger, a young manager coming through at Bournemouth, he was told that if he wasn't more demonstrative on the bench, he would never make it as a Premier League manager. Well, look what's happened with that, absolutely flourishing at Newcastle and currently leading these 11 players onto even greater heights. So that's it from me here at the training ground, snowy training ground this morning, as you can see over me. All sorts going on as Newcastle face Manchester United tomorrow in the next of this scary schedule that sees them play 10 games in 32 days, and this is them just on to number 3. So that's it from me just now, guys. Subscribe if you haven't done already, leave a comment below, and I'll see you on the next video. Cheers.